The Third Day es una serie de terror protagonizada por Jude y por Naomi Harris. La primera mitad la protagoniza él, la segunda la protagoniza ella, que nos mete de lleno en una isla que al parecer es real. Este para mí es el dato más importante de toda esta entrevista. Se trata de Osea, una isla que para mí no existía en la realidad o que era parte de la fantasía de esta ficción, pero que al parecer es 100% real. Y esto quiere decir que hay solo 4 horas en el día en donde la gente puede ir, entrar o salir de esta isla que queda allí en Reino Unido. Hablé con el director de fotografía, que me contó cómo fue el aspecto creativo de esta producción, que está cargadísima de planos quizás más experimentales, cargados de color, cosas muy lisérgicas. Hay de todo en esta producción que por momentos te va a asustar un montón y por otros tantos te va a tener así tenso, no necesariamente de miedo, sino por la necesidad de saber qué es lo que está pasando ahí, qué es lo que va a pasar con los protagonistas. Si no la vieron, se los recomiendo, véanla. Si la vieron, no se pierdan este informe sobre El Tercer Día o The Third Day, que la pueden ver por HBO Go.
We now return to Mira Akien and Contre with our latest interview.
When I got sent it, I only got sent the first 3 episodes. And it was like, this was what I was working on. And in fact, I actually made a conscious decision not really to read those next 3 episodes. And even like it was a whole new director and whole new team.
Yeah.
But they could almost do, all I knew was that we would sort of, in essence, be following the husband and they would be following the wife.
Something appalling happened to you. To lose how you lost.
The key to Third Day, in essence, is we're following an unreliable narrator because we're actually following someone who is, you know, we don't know if this is real or not. Is he having visions? What is going on? And in that way, it started to play much more. That became much more subjective then. That's why I used like a large sensor camera for the first time. I used like these DNA lenses and I used like a diopter glass often on front of the lens. And this would sort of like, when I tested it and you went really close to a face, it almost makes like a dialogue sequence feel like some sort of psychological event, or like whether this is like a dream or not a dream or whatever.
That was a long time ago.
Pain doesn't know time here.
So what happens when you put a diopter on a lens is, if you imagine, just so for anyone listening who doesn't know, you're almost taking away the focus from anything distant. Yeah. So in the end, what you've got and what you can play with is almost like, if I stretch my arm out, is like I have like 3 foot. I have like from here to here is in focus and nothing else is in focus. So in a way, but then Mark, the director, would say to me, "Oh Ben, the bit I like the best is when it's just out or it's just in. It's like it's halfway between in and out." So me and Jude would literally, we would walk. I would almost walk. We didn't quite have like a bit of rope wrapped around, but I would have to find, and we would like rehearse it. I would walk exactly at that distance to his like action to get the exact spot where this was and to sort of keep it there. And by and large, the first few times, it took a bit of rehearsing and a bit of time, but then I think by the end we knew it so well that we could just I could probably find it quite easily. But a lot of it began quite intuitively as well. I think the first ones, in fact, the other thing that was crazy about that show was, because of the actors' schedules and things, we ended up shooting a lot of episode 3 in like the first week. So like the first day of filming was completely insane. It was like, I don't even remember, like the first day of filming, I think I started off and I was filming this like really intense scene of them on the beach, and he's talking about his son and his son being taken away and like the death of his son and all that kind of stuff. And then in the afternoon we were jumping on a boat and there was this whole fight on the boat, and then we were sailing off. So it was like you were thrown right into it. And like hats off to Jude Law, because he was just like so gung-ho the whole time. He was like really on it and amazing. He just went for it the whole time.
Osea Island. Isn't it beautiful? We are going to have ourselves an adventure.
We can give you a room. Thank you.
I didn't know that Osea was a real place that actually
it is. It's
works
real
like that. how was living there and where?
Well,
not
no, that was
like that, but almost.
yeah. It's not. Yeah. No, the island itself is. I mean, it's a great place, and it has that causeway. The main thing about it is it has that sort of mile-long, windy causeway to get onto the island, and this causeway is only open, as in the series, for like 4 hours a day. So you can only get on and off this island for 4 hours a day, and otherwise it's just covered in sea. And that is, I mean, that's crazy. To shoot around that is even harder because you have to make sure you're off the island at a certain point. I mean, at some points we would be stuck on the island. We would have to stay on the island. I mean, I lived on the island for even before filming. I took some of my crew and we went and we stayed on the island for like a weekend. And it's kind of spooky. Yeah, I mean, it's a great place. It's about a mile. You can walk around the whole thing. It's like about a mile by a mile. And I mean, now it's more like rented for like kind of luxury weddings and things like that. But its history is actually in, I think it used to be a rehabilitation place for alcoholics and things like that. So there were like Amy Winehouse has stayed there and things like that.
I didn't know that.
When it does have a kind of, I know they mentioned in there about the pub and someone going there, but there is a sort of odd history to it. It's also quite funny because when you're on the mainland in Essex, which isn't too far from London, you can drive there. And like a lot of people, even very close, like if you go and ask, like we were on the mainland or we'd be staying on the mainland and you'd be in a pub or having lunch and you'd say to people, oh yeah, we're just filming on the island Osea. And they were like, oh, there's an island there. Like you wouldn't even know, because I guess it's just this small little patch it looks like a small patch of trees. And the owner, he used to manage the Sugar Babes. He now owns this island. And he kept it quite wild. Like he likes it to be wild. He's like this, he's quite an eccentric dude and he's like a really nice guy. But when you actually look at the island, all you're seeing is green and trees. You don't see buildings or anything like that. So I think most people just think it's a patch of land,
It's creepy.
So it has this kind of, it has a few of these like mythical elements to it. And it is also true that, once you're on that island and the water cuts it off, you can kind of do what you want on that island because no one can come, no one can go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there is also, it is quite a kind of, it has quite a good, there's an aura to it, definitely.
Osea needs to be in balance. And you can heal it. It will understand you.
You're not quite sure, like, what is the town's religion or what are they? I think they've sort of taken from quite a few different, almost pagan type. It's all with soil and sea and there's the fish heads and cutting in the stomach and all these things mean something. Or in that one, I remember doing much more psychological things. So I'm not sure if there was, if it was too many. Maybe towards the end in the third episode, well, there's the water, the rain. Yeah, there is quite a few. The crickets. Yeah, of course, the crickets were like a big part. So yeah, that actually begins in the first episode in one of the opening scenes. There, he actually has the cricket. So it is actually, that part of it is followed through all the way. But yeah, I don't know. Other than I didn't really want to place him near crosses or any of that kind of stuff because that would have been maybe too much.
This place, it's safe. When was the last time you really let go, Sam?
You've got like things like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, all these like films where people like hallucinate and things like that. And then I was thinking, well, these are all great and some of them work really well, others don't work so well. But the other thing is that maybe like at points like that, what's more effective is almost like just a slight shift of perception. Like you could be looking at something and then maybe you cut and you look at like a wide shot, but you're in that wide shot.
Most people are scared of pain. But they don't know how warm it can be.
The other thing that I did, which I'd not done before, and I was actually quite nervous about, but I think it worked quite well, is we did like that whole sequence in the forest is day for night. So I shot that during the day and then we like replaced the sky and I'd used like even I think there's a bit where lights are on his face, and I use these like strong lights you could use during the day that would still show up, and then we would bring in this dark sky, and there would, so it has this kind of, again, it's artificial, like you can't quite tell what it is, and I think that kind of also really helped kind of space it out a bit, you know. And also you'll notice I did a very old technique which came from Ivan's Childhood, the Tarkovsky film, one of his first movies. But in that, the boy runs, and then all of a sudden he's like up in the sky. And I think they just did it. They put him on a crane and they flew him like up in the sky and moved it across the trees and things. And I always thought like this could be a great moment. Maybe like he could walk on a crane, we lift the crane up and we go over the town and we come down. And it's almost like a 1940s technique, but I kind of think it's kind of fun because it has a sort of, there's something, again, you sort of feel the artifice, but you're doing it in a real space. So it kind of like, you're like, is this studio? What is this? What's happening? You know?
Ever since you came, this island's been divided. But we're all in agreement now.